Good morning, everybody. This is Bill Hultquist with the MasterMind of Personal Power Management team, coming to you live today, and it's Tuesday, October 18th, actually. And so this morning we're doing what we do every Tuesday, and the purpose of this MasterMind meeting is twofold. The idea of our masterminds around the world is that all of us are following the same lesson curriculum every week. And this meeting kind of starts it all off. What we do at this meeting is we go over the what we consider to be the most important principles that can do the greatest good for you if you look to assimilating these ideas into your daily life and life process. Also, what we do just a couple minutes before getting started is we all like to practice relaxation. Not that we're relaxed all day long, but the idea is to kind of just take time out, take a break for a minute, and just let's all sit back here and relax and take a nice deep breath together. And as we take that deep breath, let's just visualize the beautiful oxygen coming into the area around our heart. When we concentrate on that, there can be no other outside noise or thoughts going on. Just concentrate on the oxygen, and the oxygen flowing through our system and bringing life-giving oxygen to every one of our, 27 billion cells in our system? Amazing. And as we exhale, let's visualize letting go of all the stress and the chaos of our lives. Let's let it all out through the area around our solar plexus. Take another real deep, slow breath with me. And as we exhale, we're all beginning to feel a little bit lighter, a little bit more comfortable, a little bit more relaxed. Our breathing has now slowed down. Everybody is getting into the groove. Our intention for today is to come together in this meeting for the purpose of raising our group calibration, for the purpose of understanding the beauty of the vision of Andrew Carnegie and all the work of Napoleon Hill, and what Rick Gettle has done over the last 43 years in improving a course that the principles in this course have been learned from the 500 most successful people of the time. No work like this has ever been created, and you are about to share in that work today. And our intention for this meeting today is that we're going to be fully involved and get the maximum benefit from the material. That this material is going to have a life-changing, transformational impact on us. So as we take another deep breath, let me take a moment to just appreciate everybody that's joined this conference today. Let's all take our place around the table. Let's look into each other's eyes. Let's smile. And let's remember now a moment in our lives when we had something that we truly appreciated. A moment with our loved one, a moment with our firstborn, a moment with traveling, some kind of special moment in our life that every time we recall this moment, it brings that yes to our presence. A little smile on our face. It totally relaxes our facial muscles. We can get into this now and recognize that in this meeting we come together under the spirit of unconditional love for one another, total compassion, support, non-judgmentally, listening and learning from each other. Listening and learning. It's such a beautiful thing. I totally appreciate everybody that's here. And it is now 8 o'clock, and we like to start our meetings promptly at 8 each week, Pacific time. And I'd like to introduce our Master of Ceremonies for for today's message, Mr. Jim Taylor, who is Vice President of Training for MasterMind to Personal Power. Take it away, Jim.
Thank you, Bill, and hello, team. Welcome
Good morning,
from
Jim.
all parts of the world. If you're from another planet, welcome. We get a few visitors from Saturn and Jupiter and all over the place. Yesterday we had Martian last time, right? So I really look forward to having a vigorous everybody participates session. You know how it works here. This happens to be the third session that will probably be 3 out of 4 on the topic of your greatest potential. Little reminder for our guests, we have an almost endless supply of topics supplied by Rick Gettle, the creator of the Science of Success Achievement course, who's got over 100 topics. Each of them could be 2 or 3 weeks of discussion easily. So it's up to us as to how fast or slow we want to go and take it through these topics, because it's all about making your life the very best it can be. So we're going to pick it up at the slide where we left off last week, slide number 13. For those of you that can see the slides, it's titled Your Dreams. Gosh, all of us dream. You can choose to dream what are called personal dreams or choose to dream impersonal dreams. Personal dreams are all about you and things that you can acquire, things that you can get. And personal dreams would be those that involve others, things that involve helping others, charities, philanthropy acts, and things of that nature. That's all about the kinds of dreams there are. But really the question that starts are, what are some of your unrealized dreams? Remember that we all have dreams. It's pretty hard to not dream. You can't really easily turn it on or turn it off. So when you dream, and we're talking about the dreams where you envision what you can do with your life, where you can go, the places you can travel to, things you can build, things you can create, and how these things create feelings, and how those feelings can be imparted to others, creating smiles, creating laughter. And so that when you leave this earth, you can say your dream meant something. We can all look to people like the recently departed Steve Jobs, who no doubt had a magnificent dream, or dreams. And I'd have to say, it seems to me like in such a short life, in his 50s, he did a phenomenal job of living his dreams, beyond his wildest imagination, touching so many people in a positive way. Everything he did, he touched in a positive way. Everybody who owns a Macintosh computer swears by it, like a cult. iPods all over the place. The new iPhone, I think, sold something like 3 million copies in 3 days. And it's not even a monster big difference from the previous one, but you got to have one. People believe in what he believed. That's a great example of a dream. And you don't have to have a dream that big. But the question is, if you have a dream, then what? Are you working on them? Are you taking a step today, this week, toward achieving your dream? Or are you like most of us? You did start. You did start that workout routine to get in shape and become physically fit. But then life got in the way. You wrote 3 lines on that book, and life got in the way. And we all have a word for that. I don't care for the word, but it's true. It's procrastinating. It's allowing the world to get in the way. We can all let that happen. If we don't protect our dream and put a fence around it, lock it in, don't let anybody steal it away from us. It's ours. It's ours forever. So the real question is, when do you start? Well, how about now? If not now, when? We can all say, well, I'll start next Friday. I'll start on March 13th. Very easy to do that. I think because we think of the step towards our dream as being so huge and so far away, we tend to put off getting started instead of thinking of it as a micro step, which we can do right now. And forget about being ready. Look to Steve Jobs or anyone who's achieved a lot. They never had a monster plan in the beginning. They dove in, and they began building on the fly. And maybe even the first thing they made wasn't right. They didn't quit. They just started over again. So don't spend your life getting ready. You'll run out of time. You absolutely will run out of time. And your tombstone will say, I just wasn't ready. Do it now. Overused, but it's very powerful. So lots of definitions of potential. We can grab these definitions from every source. There's some key words among these slides, I feel. I like the phrase act, to act, the ability to act. Or another way would say, what would keep you? What would prevent you from acting? You're not frozen in place. You're not tied up. You're not in a straitjacket. You're able to act, so the only thing keeping you from act is what? You. It really isn't the government. It really isn't the rules. It really isn't your parents, your friends, your spouse. None of those things really keep you from acting. In the end, look in that mirror, or when you go to sleep at night, point that finger up and then point it right back at you. You're the person keeping you from acting. You've got the limiting beliefs. And that's the job, to break that down. There are no barriers. You and I have seen and heard about people that had enormous physical challenges in life. They could have been too old, too young. Look at the guy who started Facebook. I don't even know if he's 25 years old yet, Marc Zuckerberg. He didn't see age as a limiting. In fact, he probably felt that was an advantage. I don't have all that baggage that all you other people have that limits you because you think you can't. I don't have any of that. I know I can, and I will. And in fact, I am. And that's the story of a young guy. And we've heard about old guys. There's a big franchise worldwide called KFC. Old Colonel Sanders was in his 60s, late 60s, and he kept knocking on doors with a recipe, and they kept saying, no, I don't know, I don't think so. And he kept doing it, knocking on doors, until finally somebody said, let's give it a try. So well into his 60s was the beginning of a worldwide franchise started by an old guy. So clearly age is not an issue. And on and on and on. It certainly isn't your physical ability, any of those things. The ability of a living being to perform in a given way or a capacity for a certain kind of performance. Remember that whatever the performance is your definition, your dream. It's not someone else's. Somebody can't tell you how much weight they think you should lose. That's your choice. So you can set the pace and you can set the distance yourself. Whatever it is, just know that it's far better off than where you are now. So don't worry about how big a challenge it is or how big a dream it is. You can dream as big as you want or as small as you want. Either one will take you further along the path than where you are right now. Here's the word power. Interesting word. Maybe you think you don't have the power. And what power do you need? Do you need authentication by someone? Do you need credentials? Steve Jobs never finished college at Reed College. Bill Gates never finished Harvard, didn't even get very far in Harvard. There are too many stories about people that never finished the university. So don't let education be it. As a matter of fact, they might say, again, education will limit your beliefs. They might say that. Not a factor. You have the power. There are really no limits. It's not age. It's not education. And some would argue it's not even money. How many people have achieved massive wealth with little to nothing? Many people have. There's no waiting to be called upon. No one's going to tap you on the shoulder and says, okay, wake up your dream. It's time to go get it. There is no call. The phone will not ring and tell you it's time. You have to decide. It's waiting for you. Like a windmill to be developed. The energy is there. It's waiting for you to harness it. And how much power is there? You may be familiar with a well-known book by Tony Robbins called Unlimited Power. The idea is that relative to where you and I are in this universe, it's unlimited. Unlimited. Like potential, it is unlimited. Again, the limit, if there is one, would only be the limit you place on it. So why do that? Boundless, endless. Possibilities. How many are there? Infinite possibilities. If it can't be accomplished in the first choice, there are only a billion other choices. There are many, many ways to get from San Diego to New York. You can choose any number of paths. And there's nobody who set a standard says, wait a minute, here's a rule on how long it has to take you. If you want to set out on the course to make your dream, you can choose to do it whenever you want to make it. Mel Brooks, who's a well-known comedian in the U.S., and I think he's well into his 70s now, was a funny guy. And one day he woke up and said, you know what, I'm going to write a Broadway show. And somebody said, gee, Mel, you've never done that before. And by the way, can you even read music? He said, no, I can't read music, but I've got a story to tell. And he took his funny Frankenstein story and wrote out the songs without knowing anything about music. You know how he did it? He hummed the songs, and he recorded humming, and that was the music. That's how Mel Brooks created the monster show, Frankenstein. Great fun. Young Frankenstein was the actual name. Nobody said, you're authorized to do that, or it's okay. In fact, many people said, I don't think so. How can a comedian do that? Good example of someone who said, I don't have any boundaries. I don't care if I don't play an instrument. I have an idea. Anything you can imagine is fair game. Anything. If I knew what all the examples of crazy, stretched imagination were, we'd all be amazed at some of the things that people have done who've come from nowhere. The most unlikely people. Capabilities able. Able. And you can't let anything disable you. Stevie Wonder has been blind, I believe, most, if not all, of his life. And Ray Charles, and a number of other well-known musicians could not see. Well, how do you play the piano if you can't see? It can't be done, right? How can you write a song if you can't see? It can't be done. So they could have said, oh, I guess you're right. I can't do anything. I don't have any dreams. I need some other way. So there's endless examples of people who didn't have the gift of everything that we have, who created enormous joy in this world. So what about where you are now, and a year from now, or 5 years from now, or 10 years from now? So experience is knowledge from doing, and I like the idea that don't let experience become a determinant, feeling like you have to have experience to accomplish something. I often say you can have 20 years of experience, but it's really 1 year 20 times. You just repeated the same old you over and over. You didn't stretch. You didn't get near the edge of the cliff. You didn't jump off. You didn't jump out of the airplane. You just said, this is what I always do. I always eat the same breakfast every day at the same time. I always eat lunch at the same time. And this is what I do at 4 o'clock. I have my tea every day. My world's comfortable. Don't challenge me. Don't push me. Don't ask me to think about anything that involves a stretch. Don't ask me to take a step. It's comfortable where I live. Don't ruffle my feathers. So, maybe today's the day that you begin to do something or learn something. And learning and doing are connected. Often, the book is not the beginning. It's taking the step that's the beginning. No one ever gave you the book on how to ride a bicycle. I don't know if such a book exists. You got on, and you fell off, and you got on, and you fell off, and you got on. And at some point, you scream to your dad or your mom, look what I'm doing. Every kid has experienced that, right? Mm-hmm. So when you went to bed that night, when you were 7 years old, you had a dream and you were riding your bike all over. You might even rode your bike to another planet or to. When you're a kid, you're allowed to dream those dreams because nobody told you about limiting beliefs. And you went everywhere on your bike when you were a kid. Let's go around, as we usually do, and get your feelings about this whole idea of potential and some of the thoughts in these slides. Let's start with Martin. Martin, what do you think?
Oh, I think it's really important that we all realize that we just have unlimited, untapped potential within all of us. It's just limitless. And the only limits are the limits that we put on ourselves, saying, no, I can't do that. That's not for me. And you hit the nail right on the head there at the end of the medium. It's all about using that beautiful imagination that we all have, and when we're kids, we just use it and use it. We build castles in the sky. We just travel. Wherever we want to travel, we can do anything we want. And that's, for me, is what it's all about. When you're realizing the dreams that you want, you first have to picture it in your mind, because we all think in pictures. And if you visualize it, and then you start to feel it, smell it, touch it, taste it, in other words, take ownership of your dream and go for it. Don't listen to what other people say. Just go for it. Because if Colonel Sanders had listened to all of the people that said, that's not going to work, that'll never happen, we wouldn't have KFC now. So we just have to go for it. As Nike say, just do it.
Thank you, Martin. And, I was just thinking about this. So let's assume that we're in the kitchen and we're building a recipe. And we know we want a fantastic result. And we have a large number of ingredients available to us, and the job is to grab those ingredients and decide which ones to use. And that could be called a dream formula, our dream cake, if you like, if it's sweet. And I think what I'd call what the ingredient is you just offered, Martin, is imagination. Mm-hmm. You said, let's take the imagination off the shelf, put it up on the counter. Look at the box it's in. It's very colorful. It's red. It has a red color to it with yellow writing on it. And it's a very unusual shape. Wouldn't you think that's the kind of package imagination comes in? It's different. It's unique. It's special. It's not like anything you've seen before. But it's fascinating. And we're drawn to want to use that ingredient because we know what its power is and what it can do. So let's put the imagination up there and begin with setting that on our countertop, ready to put it into our bowl, where we will build a phenomenal dream. Phenomenal dream. No one can touch our dream. It will be the best dream we ever made. Everyone here will have a part in it. When we're all finished, we'll have all of our names on it. And Martin, you kicked it off with imagination. Frank, what else might you put into our dream formula? What do you think?
Well, I think the more you imagine your dream from a sensory perspective, the more real it'll be. So some people have a dream book that they put together, a notebook, I think before you go to bed at night and when you wake up, you should think about this dream. You should also visualize it as if it's occurred, because what you think about is what you become. Another thing I was thinking, you mentioned Steve Jobs earlier, in his commencement speech, and I don't remember the exact words, but he said that death is a good thing because it makes you pursue the things that you pursue your dreams now, because you don't know when you're not going to be here anymore. And I thought it was, a very interesting twist on a subject that, some people don't want to deal with. So it's what you do to achieve your dream every day once you imagine it.
Thanks, Frank. And you said multisensory. So aside from visualizing things, sounds like the ingredient you're offering or suggesting is it contains the ability to feel the kinesthetic piece or hear the auditory piece, even smell it, right? Or taste it. In other words, we want an ingredient that is so vast and so broad and so deep that no sense of ours will be missed. We don't care what your preference is, you'll be touched. For example, if you've smelled the scent of vanilla and that excites you, that's what will be in our formula. We'll put that up on the counter, okay? Building on the Steve Jobs story for a minute, I just love it so much because you may know that he was an adopted child. He was never raised by his biological mother. He was adopted. And when it came time to go to the university, his parents scraped together. They didn't have much money. Scraped together the few things they had to get him in to Reed College. And he worried every day, every week, that the expense of college was going to put his parents in the poorhouse. So he decided to drop out. And he didn't go away immediately. He slept on the floor and snuck into classes and did a few things before he finally got to building an idea in his garage with Wozniak. Very cool story. Steve Jobs. Greg, what do you think? What else do you want to put in this formula? Got an idea?
Sure. If I have a dream and end vision, I like to work backwards. I like to say, I want to achieve this by this time, this many months or years from now. And then, half of that time from now, I want to be halfway there. And I work backwards, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 years, and then break down what I need to do over the next few weeks and months and days. So I like to split it up and chunk it down and take small pieces along the way. So even if I take small pieces every day, I know I'm on my way. And Earl, one of my favorite teachers is Earl Nightingale, who said, success is the progressive realization of a worthy goal or ideal. And that means if you're working on it every day, you're progressively getting closer to it. You should be happy. You don't have to wait to be happy until you get there. If you're working on it progressively every day, one day at a time, you are successful.
What a fantastic idea. So let's assume, to draw a parallel that we can all relate to, we want to lose some weight. And we set out on our actual strategy and take the actions to lose weight. And I think we're going to celebrate as we're progressing. As we get on that scale each week and we see the needle go down or the digital number go down, we're celebrating as we go. We're smiling. And that's because we can see intermediate progression. We can see those chunks working backwards, as Greg points out, from our ultimate goal. So even progress on the path of the journey is rewarding. We don't have to wait until we get to that pot of gold at the end to celebrate. We can celebrate weekly, daily, hourly if we like. If Thomas Edison took 1,000 times to invent the light bulb, I don't know if that's actually true. I don't know if he really kept score. He might have. I wonder if he took time in between when he made an advance. Some component of that light bulb was created before the whole light bulb was created. And I'm going to bet you he celebrated. We just didn't know about those small steps. But he didn't go from 0 to light bulb. We know that. There's no way he can do that. The light bulb was the end. But all along the way, every time he tried something, and many times it didn't work, there were a few times that that portion, that piece, that little increment worked. And he said, I got that piece figured out. Maybe the filament was a big obstacle and a challenge. And he went to bed at night thinking, what the heck can I use to build a filament? And he might have tried all sorts of things. Who knows? I'm not sure. Somebody might know. But I'm suggesting that he worked backwards. He knew what he wanted. He knew electricity was involved. And he knew the candle was dangerous. And it was time to do something different. And it was about as radical an idea as there ever could be. When you think about going from a candle to a light bulb, gosh, what a magnificent jump that would have been. But he didn't just create the light bulb one day. He created a lot of little pieces. And then finally, the light bulb. I'm sure. So, Greg, like the idea. Chunk, so far, on the counter, we have Martin's imagination in a red box with yellow writing on it. Frank has put up the idea of multi-sensory. Make sure that the ingredient, we're going to add a dash of, call it sensory sauce. Okay? It's going to get whatever you have. If you're an auditory guy, gustatory guy, doesn't matter. It's going to touch you. You're going to smell it, see it, touch it, feel it, everything. It's going to be there in our plan. And then Greg said, let's work backwards. Let's make sure that we don't think of this as one monster big journey that is too big to achieve. Let's set our goal at the end, but let's establish little pieces, steps, day by day, week by week, month by month, so we can achieve it. And then we can celebrate, because celebration does what? It reinforces you to continue. It enables you to say, I'm getting there. I'm making progress. I'm making headway. Psychologically, that fuels you to continue. Others can help you, too. If others say, wow, Greg, I wasn't here for a month, and look where you've come. You've been able to do this and this. All very important components of your end result, your dream. So, Dee, what about you? What do you think you can put into this dream formula that can make it fly? What do you think?
Well, I like to reduce it to the ridiculous, small steps. And I do it with serious focus. I might have pictures here, a piece of clothing there, all these little inspirational things that let me know that I'm really going to do this. So I like to research the topic, reading all I can on what the goal is, and I'm rather practical. I kind of figure it out as I go and kind of flirt with sampling it. But small successes for me give self-confidence that I can achieve that goal. So getting props, I use treasure mapping almost extensively. I have used the sleep tape as well, going to bed on my pillow with an endless loop. But not very auditory. I'm more visually stimulated. And my goal to drink more water, that seems like a very tiny thing. But it's also going to help my cholesterol, my blood pressure, my complexion, my skin, everything. So it seems like a small goal. It's not that easy to achieve 9 glasses of water in the morning and 9 in the afternoon before going to bed. But I'm going to get the benefits. So using visual stimulants is what I do mostly. That's very effective. And it's going to be everywhere, on my computer, on my closet, everywhere, on my refrigerator, wherever I post it, where I'm sure to keep focus. And one step at a time, reducing it to the ridiculous, accomplishing that, and then moving on to a greater step. So research plays a very important part for me because I'm rather mathematical and research-oriented. but I could research forever, but I don't. I take a chunk and try to apply it right then.
Excellent. So, isn't it nice, though, that we have different ingredients so far, all critical components? When you think about it, all of these can be considered essential. Dee says, let's spend a little time researching. Let's look at it. Before we jump in, let's take a little time, not too much time. Let's have a dream and then think about how we're going to get there, and maybe find someone else that's already accomplished something like that and just model them. Again, borrowing or stealing from Tony Robbins, who uses the term modeling excellence. And you said inspiration, and especially for you, you're a visual person, and you join 70% of the world population who are visual, and that's their dominant sensory modality, visual. I am visual, for example. So we got to make sure that we're doing something that responds to the largest majority of people who respond to that particular sensory modality, which is visual. And you're going to do things that involve the visual aspect. People can see it, you can see it, others can see it. Things that are attractive looking, things that are stimulating. So in our formula, you're going to pay attention to things you can see. You're even going to use language. If you borrow the work of neuro-linguistic programming, you'll even do things involving the visual sense, where people can see things. So you'll respond to that. Talk about mirroring and matching and things involving what you see. And that's your inspiration. That's how you get juiced up. And you think that is a very, very, very important component of getting the whole business of creating your dream together. We're in the assembly shop. We're like little elves. We're building this thing. And so far, we've got imagination. We've got multisensory. We've got working backwards, and we've got inspiration, and particularly visual. Ron, what do you think? What did we miss? What do we need to put in this thing to make it work?
I think you need to start off by dreaming big. A lot of us are sometimes limited, either by experience or by influence around us. But if Bill Bartman says that when you dream, shoot for the stars. And if you miss and land on the moon, that's okay. But if you limit yourself and you dream and you shoot for the street lamp, you might end up in the gutter. So dream big. And when you were talking about the weight loss, and that was a thing that I had to experience a few years ago. And when I decided that I was going to lose the weight, I decided not to do like the Biggest Loser and just weigh once a week. I weighed every day. And so I could make course corrections as I went. So, you need to make constant course corrections along the way. So have your dream, make it big, work your way back from the vision to where you are right now, and decide what the steps are that you need to take along the way to make that happen. So constant little course corrections will get you to that star. Not necessarily overnight, but it will get you to the star, step by step.
I want to ask you a follow-up question, Ron.
Okay.
Why is it important to dream big? Why can't we just dream medium or small? Why is that important?
Well, that's a very good question. My big might be different than your big. And there are some realities that do hit some people. But, if we want something bad enough, if we want something so much, it's our white hot desire to obtain it. Dreaming big is really the pathway to get there. If I say, hey, I just want to live in a small little trailer and down by the river. do the Mr. Motivational guy from Saturday Night Live, living in a van down by the river. That's what we're going to get. And so I think it's a matter of mindset. We have to train our minds. We have to constantly work on our minds. We had some discussion earlier about the Titanic. We made the joke about amateurs building the Ark, and it was professionals who built the Titanic. And then one of the comments that really struck me was that it was really ego that sunk the Titanic. It was a mindset that sunk the Titanic. And so it's our own mindset that either keeps us sailing smoothly along or can cause us to sink. And actually, by dreaming small, we're kind of self-sabotaging ourselves in a way. So it's important to dream big. It's important to have something big to look forward to.
I like that. So dreaming big is, I'm going to often say, a little psychological trick where you tell your mind you're capable of something far greater than you think you are. Mm-hmm. It isn't necessarily a strategy, but it's a psychological foundation that paves a way for you to believe that anything's possible, and you can easily dovetail that right into what Frank suggested, breaking it down.
Mm-hmm.
Or actually it was Greg. Greg said, okay, now that we've got that enormous big dream, and we've got the mindset into the mode of thinking, we can build the Titanic. Along comes Greg and says, great idea, now let's talk about the how. Each week we've got to do this. We've got to work backwards. So they fit together, don't they?
Absolutely.
One is somewhat strategic, and the other is very tactical. But it strikes me you've got to have the two of them to make the thing fly, or in this case, float.
Yeah, you can't have strategy without tactics. The two make it happen.
Well, you can, and I'll tell you where, in my experience, that's happened. Of course, it didn't work. I was in the middle of the dot-com business.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody had the notion that you can just say internet and make $1 billion. And they forgot to create a plan. They forgot to create the tactics. They just had dreams. We build it and everybody will come. And so everybody went bust back in the 93, 94, 95 time zone, in that late 90s period. Of course, it's recovered, and now they've added all the other things that we're creating here today. So one of these probably will not stand alone. If you had imagination by itself and didn't have any of the other things we've been talking about, and you've all contributed, I would challenge whether this dream formula will work. Mm-hmm. What if you have imagination and no inspiration to make it happen? Or no dream itself, and it wasn't very big? Or it did not attach any of the senses, and it didn't have the small steps to work backwards from. Mm-hmm. So it seems to me like everything that everybody's contributed are critical components of this whole dream formula, which of course ties into the very theme we've been talking about for 3 weeks, called your greatest potential. Because potential rests on your dream. It sits right on top of it. You must go through it. You must go through the dream to get to the potential. You can't skip it. You've got to have a dream. And then the question is, as we've been discussing, how do I do that? What do I do? Well, you add all these things. You throw them all in there. Now, you may have to adjust the degree of each one, and that's the challenge. We might have too much imagination and not enough inspiration, so we don't do anything today. We're not inspired enough to work towards our imagination. Or maybe our chunk is too small or too big. We're not moving. We're going so slow we give up, or it's too big, I can't achieve it. So we've got to calibrate that chunk that Greg offered to get to the end. Or maybe we lost sight of the end. We don't have a big dream. I don't know what that is. I forgot. I don't know. So all these things seem to apply very well together in old Martha Stewart's cookbook. any one of them missing, and we might have to rethink. We might have to say, what's missing? And D might say, well, you're not inspired. You need to figure out what inspires you. Or someone else might say, you're taking too big a step. You cannot learn to be a marathon runner and the first week run 10 miles. It won't work. You'll fall over on your face and you'll give up. Or you're limiting your beliefs by thinking you can't. There's no imagination, as Martin would offer. What else, Bill? What else do you think we can put in there?
Well, I think it's an amazing discussion, isn't it? Because if you were the person who saw San Francisco Bay and you decided that we needed to connect San Francisco with Sausalito and Tiburon with a bridge, all the things that you talked about would be very important, to the imagination, the emotion of the convenience, the excitement of a bridge that could span that terrific distance, and all the things that we've talked about come into play today. And they did, by the way, if you look into the history behind the San Francisco Bridge. But the thing that the business element, the engineering element that comes into all of these things, that maybe is the one thing we just need to bring up to kind of fulfill our mental formula, if you will, for how we put this together, is the documentation. Because a good place to start with all of these things, especially the really, really big dreams, as Ron was saying, and as we know, we have a partner who has the dream to bring what we're doing to 1 billion people worldwide. So whenever you have a really large dream like that, it looks to be on the surface impossible until you break it down, like Greg was saying, and on an annual basis, where are you going to be towards bringing our plan to 1 billion people? And then you could say, well, it's still too big a dream. It seems kind of impossible that you could reach that many people. So what we've done is we've designed a way to document the dream. How would your life look if things got as good as they get in your life? Visualize your life 5 years from now in full sensory function. Do it and do it in the present tense as if you've already accomplished it, and write it down. And we have a book to do that in, that we provide to each of our members. And once your dream has taken shape and it's in writing, then we can break down the goals on an annual basis. And once those goals have been established, that we need to achieve this, this, and this, and this over that period of time, we can then say, well, how do I get started? What's my first step? What do I do this week? And in order to accomplish that step, what are the little actual tasks that I need to accomplish to get it done? So suddenly, building a bridge is as simple as doing the task, clearing this out, getting the permits, building the foundation for the superstructure, building, and all the separate pieces can be broken down into their individual tasks that are part of step 1 through, let's say, 100, to get from San Diego to New York, or whatever your plan is. Or if your plan is complete financial abundance in your life, maybe you could look into what we do in our company and how we bring this information, this life-changing, transformational information to people in such a way that they can have this financial abundance while they're helping people appreciate, the miracle of the miracle of dreaming. It's the most beautiful thing that human beings do. And when like Steve Jobs sees that final product that's just gotten onto the marketplace now, I believe it's iPhone 5, is it? And when that, in each of these important product renovations or revolutions, and really in his case, the pride and the excitement and the exhilaration of the accomplishment of that. So it's, I think it's documentation, and I think it's writing these things down, and I think it's a daily analysis of where you're at, and making those corrections, those course corrections, and sharing that with your accountability partner in our company, and on a weekly basis then reporting back to your mastermind group about the progress that you're making in accomplishing your dream. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. So, if you could boil that down, it sounds like you believe it's important that we write it down, and that any plan that has a chance for success is one to write it down. I wonder why writing it down is that important. Could it be that once Thomas Edison got to the light bulb, had he not written down everything he accomplished along the way, he might have to start all over again, building the second light bulb. If you don't write it down, or if we're creating a cookbook to build the very best cake ever made, seems like we may want to make more than one. And we may want to alter the order in which we mix things, and that has to be written down unless people have a photographic memory. But even if you did, we want others to be able to do what we do. We want even our own family to be able to do it, our own relatives, people we know. So writing it down, a time-honored way to communicate a process, a system, a methodology for everyone to be able to follow. And the fruit of all that labor and effort really comes to bear when you've been able to hand it to someone else and say, here, it took me forever. It took me 5 years or 3 years or 6 years, but here it is. If you follow this, this is my gift to you. You will get to your dream much quicker by following this. Notice it starts with imagination, and you can walk them through. You can give them the instruction set clearly as to how to use this plan to get the most out of it. Start here, go here, go here, go here. It's relatively straightforward. And it's intended to be so that you don't need someone to explain it. You simply pick up the plan and you read it and you jump in. And then you must gather the quality of the ingredients. While it may say, go get some imagination, it may be challenging to explain what that really is and where to find it. But it's a start, and a good plan will probably give you some ideas. If you think you don't have imagination and you felt like most of your life you've been compliant, you followed others, and you're a good soldier, and somebody comes along and says, hey, you want to get more out of your life? Start imagining. And you say, gosh, I don't know how to do that very well. What do you suggest? And maybe the plan explains where to go. Maybe it says, go to Disneyland and ride on something. Close your eyes and make believe you're 5 years old, and you'll get some imagination. Maybe that's an example of what the written plan tells you to do to get imagination. Or if somebody says, what do you mean by breaking it down and working backwards? I don't understand that. Give me an idea of what you mean. Maybe that portion of the recipe explains that and tells you what tools you can use and how to think about things realistically and smartly so that there's a time attached to every step that allows you to check off progress as you're working towards your goal through those chunks that Greg suggested. And maybe the part on inspiration tells you where to get that. It's what to read, what to listen to, what to touch. What things might you touch to stimulate the kinesthetic in us? Maybe it's a fabric. Maybe it's a white sandy beach and it runs through our fingers. And that feeling moves us. Maybe it's to put our toes in the water at the ocean's edge. And it's cold as hell the first step, and then you get in. And now you're up to your ankles and you say, this is different. This makes me feel different. And there's inspiration. And all that's described in the plan. And Frank throws in the multi-sensory thing, making sure that there's a section where you create your dream book. There are pages to look at. Giant, vivid, full of color and everything you can imagine about your dream. You can look at that section every day, all day if you'd like. So you can really bask in the glow of what your dream really looks like and be reminded and re-stimulated over and over again. And this book might be a big book. Ron says, let's dream big, so maybe the book is big. Maybe it's a coffee table-sized book. Who set the limits? No one told us how big this should be. We get to decide. So we've got all these components all lined up, all part of our ultimate dream formula. Very, very critical pieces. Then we have to fool with each measure. We might have some guidance on where to start as for how much, but in the end we'll probably have to tinker. We'll probably have to decide how much inspiration might be necessary, because some people might say, I only need a little to get what I want. Other people say, oh, I need a lot of inspiration. I'm the kind of guy where I'm just built for, I need a lot of inspiration. So we'll have to provide guidance to people who read our book, our plan, on what the range of inspiration might feel like or look like, and where to get more, and how to know when you've got enough. How do I know when I'm there? So everybody's done a fantastic job. Now, Rick, we probably missed something critical. I'm not sure. What do you think? Is there something else that you could put into this fantastic dream formula that this group of people have assembled here today? What do you think?
Yeah, Jim. There are many starters in life, but very few finish. Step number 3 of the Carnegie Secret says, keep intensifying your desire. There are many firemen in life. They'll come along and try to put your fire of desire out. They'll give you all kinds of reasons why your idea or goal won't work, and tell you to give up or forget about it, or tell you can't do it. You have to become an arsonist. An arsonist sets fires. Every morning when you wake up, you have to relight, rebuild the intensity of your fire of desire. You have to eat it, sleep it, walk it, talk it, and concentrate it until it becomes a red-hot, flaming, burning, and obsessional desire that will eventually mow down all the opposition you will face throughout each day. If you don't, your sizzle of desire will fizzle down to nothing. You know, once you have this strong desire, it brings into play the law of harmonious attraction. Your burning desire becomes a magnet that will attract that what you need. The ideas, the plans, the money you need, the people you need. They'll eventually gravitate toward your desire. Very few people know how to desire with sufficient intensity. They don't know what it is to feel and manifest that intense, eager, longing, craving, insistent, demanding, ravenous desire, which is akin to the persistent, insistent, ardent, overwhelming desire of the drowning man for a breath of air, or the shipwrecked or desert-lost man for a drink of water, or the famished man for bread and meat. Intensity, deeply felt, eager, enthusiastic, longing to desire urgently, aching, craving, dreaming, hankering, hungering, itching, lusting, pining, sighing, thirsting, yearning, ravenous, very hungry, famished, starving. I want it, I need it, I can't live without it. A love, a drug, a drink, money, recognition. Some people die for it, some kill for it. You have to keep intensifying your desire, especially with all this negative news out there. So how are you going to do that? How are you going to, every day, keep intensifying the fire of desire? That's my thought.
Thanks, Rick. There's several words that come out of your offer. You could say the word intensity is certainly a key word. You could say the word focus might be a key word, or you could even say the word persistence. In some ways, they're synonyms in this context. In other words, stay the course. Stay with it. Don't let anything get in your way. Be fired up every day. Figure out what fires you up, because it is different for all of us, isn't it? So you've got to discover that. It's sort of like whether or not you're ticklish you're ticklish different than someone else. And when you're a little kid, someone discovered where you're ticklish. And then from that day for the rest of your life, that's where your spot is, different from somebody else's spot. But you know it brings joy when somebody does it. And if you're very ticklish, you kind of avoid it. So if you're looking for persistence or looking for intensity or looking for focus, you've got to find it. Beyond the will to do it is the way. Someone else might give you some ideas. Maybe there's a partner. Maybe there's a coach. Maybe there's a book. Maybe there's a recording. Maybe there's a marvelous success story. Maybe it's the guy that was in The Pursuit of Happiness, played by Will Smith. Maybe that's your inspiration to be persistent, to stay the course, and no matter what. How many people are knocked down before they get up and win? Over and over. Great stories about Michael Jordan, perhaps the best basketball player who ever lived. And Michael has several quotes about how many shots he missed and how many he even missed with a second to go. Another example would be how many times Babe Ruth struck out. But they had intensity and focus and persistence to get up the next day and put that behind them. They were absolutely dead set on the notion that they're going to reach their dream. Didn't even give it a thought that they would fail. Wasn't even possible. Not even considered. Wasn't even on the map. So thank you, Rick. So, we've got persistence. We've got a big dream triggering our mindset. We've got a written plan. We've got inspiration. We've got the ability to work backwards from our dream, and we're striking every sense we have, and we're applying imagination throughout all of this. I think we've got a pretty darn good formula. What do you guys think?
Yeah, sounds good.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
Man, I want to call the patent office, and I want to patent this right now. I want to submit the patent and say, look, we've got it. What did
Let
he
me
say?
onto this train.
What did he? Yeah, well, I'll have what she's having or he's having.
Let's cut this cake up.
Yeah, gosh, can I have a big piece, please? It's kind of fun because when we get finished with this cake, guess what? We're going to build something else. But whatever we build, I think we've got all the pieces. We've got all the ingredients, right? It will be very, very interesting and fun to use all these pieces and say, okay, everybody's got a piece they're responsible for. And we know it goes in there. What we just don't know yet is how much for each person. So you get to be in charge of that. Frank, you're the multisensory guy, knowing that everybody comes into this thing with a different responsiveness. You get to experiment and try which person responds to what. Isn't that fun? This person might be very visual.
It is.
Or D, we all respond differently in inspiration. You're in charge of inspiration. You get to choose all sorts of things to see what works. Wow. A wide range. You can be creative. You can really be imaginative. You can even have your dream within the inspiration world and decide and discover things, musical things, video things, sounds, sights. Wow, any one of those could inspire me. You could have something in writing and read it to me, and I could say, oh, my God, I'm inspired. So look at all these pieces. And I'm sure that there are probably some more. But I think we've got an awful lot of darn good ones. Again, what do we say about getting ready? We're ready now. We're ready today. We're ready to take all of these things, put them into motion, and put them into action. We can create a giant dream. We can create a plan. We can put the steps in. We can make sure it's attached to every sense we have. We can dream big. We can do things that make sure that we maintain that arsonist attitude to light that fire every single day. Even on days we don't feel good or days we're not motivated. Everyone is human. We simply overcome those things. And I say simply because we figure out how. If you ever had a down day, what did you do to overcome that? That's how we figure it out. What turns you on? What excites you? And that's part of how we do these things. Any final thoughts? Any ideas? Any comments? Any disclaimers?
I can
Marvelous job.
Get it all down
them,
on paper. That's
Get it
what
on
I
paper.
would recommend. Get it down,
Get it on
take
paper.
ownership, and
Go for
leave
it.
that ownership for future generations.
And you deserve it. You do deserve it.
You know, we've been working on potential. This is 3 sessions, and we've got at least one more. And we might, in hindsight, look backwards someday and say, you know, we spent a lot of time on this question of potential, didn't we? We really talked about it. We really exercised everyone's individual feelings about potential. And we all built things, and you got your signature on it. Your contribution is in it. Your name is on the plaque. When we set the plaque alongside this dream and we launch this baby, your name is there. You're a plank owner, as they would say in the Navy, or a charter member in business or whatever. You're a founder. Good for you. Thanks, everybody, for your contribution today. I just can't get enough of you. I mean, to be honest with you, I think we could invent a solar-powered car easily tomorrow.
Yeah.
Or any other, or whatever we choose. We just have to apply all of these wonderful things, and I think, by Jove, we've got it. Have a fantastic week, everybody. Love you all. Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye.
Thanks, Jim.
Thanks.
Thanks.